Welcome back. You're still watching VOP this morning. And now, 6 days after leaving New York in the United States, where he attended the 78th UN General Assembly, UNGA, President Bola Tinubu has still not returned to Nigeria, leaving Nigerians wondering about his whereabouts and stalking rumors that the president does not consider himself as being accountable to the people he was elected to serve. Now, Tinubu arrived in New York on September 18 and departed the U.S. last Thursday around 8:25 p.m. local time using the JFK airport. But he has so far failed to communicate his itinerary to Nigerians, a pattern all too similar to that of his predecessor, Muhammadu Buhari, notorious for extended stays outside the country. Now, joining us virtually to discuss this issue is Nick Agule, who is a public affairs analyst, and Great Imo, who is also a public affairs analyst. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, good to have you. Now, great. Let me quickly come to you now. Great. The question is, where is the president? Where is the president? Nigeria is wondering, where is he? The UN General Assembly has ended, and well, he did say he was going to have on the side meetings, but as the number one man, Nigerians are troubled. We want to know where our president is. What are your thoughts? Great.
Well, we know that the UN General Assembly is already over. And even before those, some of the presidents would take their speech, some very serious presidents who have something important to do back in their countries since long left to go and take care of the affairs of their nation. We saw that Mr. President was scheduled for some kind of activities. There was a forum where they said he was going to meet with investors, and in that how you ended up seeing much of Nigerians who doesn't look like they are very top-notch Nigerians resident in the U.S. Then thereafter, we expect Mr. President to be back home. And moreover, also, it was based on what his media aide, Larry, told us before they departed. He was supposed to have a kind of private meet with the President of the United States. And it was later also said that he was scheduled to be on CNN to grant interview, at least to talk to global audience using that platform to market Nigeria, talk about the economic prospects of the nation, the plans that his administration has. But we end up not seeing much of that. One other thing that I noticed was I didn't understand how Mr. President traveled all the way to the United States, and some of the images that were coming from there, and even the news said the sidelines he was meeting with some ministers and governors. And this usually every Wednesday he's supposed to have Federal Executive Council meeting with his ministers, and then some of the images coming from there was we saw the Minister for Social Development and whatever orientation, showing Mr. President some PowerPoints, printed in paper, and kneeling down there, showing Mr. President these things, and that became a news for Nigeria. For me, it was so amusing that the member of the cabinet and the minister, like every other one, they all could go from Nigeria to the US, spending this much amount of money to be having meeting on the sideline with the president. There was nothing unique about it. The minister that is supposed to sit with the president every Wednesday and even talk to president every time governors that are all in Nigeria. So I do understand this idea of going to the US to have it as an activity. I mean, what happens in Nigeria is that when we don't have serious, we are not serious minded in our approach to governance. So we try to have some activities, including sycophantic activities and all whatnot, created around so that we can have something in the news to tell people that, oh, we are busy, we are busy. The things you read in the news as achievement are some funny things, like somebody say, oh, Mr. President was at the stock exchange to ring the closing bell, or the it's, I don't know how that's an achievement, but that was in major news and a point of argument in Nigeria, or those who agreed and those. So it's to tell you how unserious our nation is. A country where there are 20 million children who are not in school. I mean, children of schooling age who are not in school. I mean, a country, 133 million people were in multidimensional poverty before this string of poverty instigating events that are happening now. A country where people are paying taxes to bandits. I mean, a country where the chief of army staff sits on television is talking about one young man somewhere in Finland declaring sit at home, and he is the chief of a whole nation's army, and that is what he's talking about on television. A country that have diplomatic relationship with Finland, that his president, ambassadors, the foreign affairs minister cannot actually liaise with the Finnish president, or through the diplomatic channel, to quell this thing, to be able to itemize the things this. So we are very unserious, and now to make the matter worse, we have a president, we don't know where he is. He shows up when he's supposed, when he thinks he's okay. And then we have praise singers praise him for showing up. That is actually the tragedy here now.
All right. Thank you very much, Great Igbo, for that intro to it. That's your intro to it. Oh well, you said something about the president meeting Nigerians that didn't look like top-notch Nigerians in diaspora. But we don't know how. I don't know how top-notch can Nigerians in diaspora look, but I'm sure
top-notch Nigerians are known. We have the likes of Phillips and Megwali.
Okay.
But you met with some Nigerians. We have a Nigerian with over 100 patents. We have so many. Top Nigerians are known. They are known in the US. I'm not missing words about that.
All right. But he met with some Nigerians. All right, Nick. Now we know that Nigeria is troubled as it is with insecurity and a whole lot of other things. Now, Great did point to something. He did point to the fact that the president was meeting with some ministers in a foreign soil. How is that perceived, really? Is that something to be troubled about? President of a country meeting with ministers and on a foreign soil. Nick?
Well, my personal view is that there's nothing troubling about that. If the president travels with some members of his cabinet, for me, it's fine that they can gather around in a room and discuss matters, including matters that are emerging, or to re-strategize, or to kind of appraise the visit as is going on. So for me, the president can meet with members of his cabinet at any time. It's not as if the president left Nigeria with his cabinet members to go and hold a Federal Executive Council meeting in New York. No. The president traveled with members of his cabinet, and whilst he was there at the UN General Assembly, if it takes time to meet with, and that's what is expected, for him to constantly meet with his delegation, so that they can discuss their visit to the UNGA, and also any matters that could even come up in Nigeria. If the president is notified of them, he can gather the responsible cabinet members in a room and discuss about it. Because you see, the fact that he's in New York doesn't mean he's no longer ruling over Nigeria. He's still the president of Nigeria, and he's presiding over matters that are coming up in Nigeria. So for me, that is not really the issue. The issue for me, the big issue for me, is the absence of our president from our from our space without explanations. That is the worrying part. People need to understand that if you don't want your private affairs to be made public, sit down at home. Don't come forward to contest election to become a leader, either of the country, or of a subnational government like the state or local government, or a legislator. Because once you do that, you become a pilot of a plane on which all of us are on board. And we all have interest in who is piloting this plane. Look, if you are piloting a plane with only you and your family on board, it will not matter to us. So if you want to go and commit suicide with your family, you can go ahead and do that. But immediately you now come and enter the cockpit of a plane where 200 million Nigerians are on board, your life is no longer personal. Your life can no longer be taken away from the public view. You are a president that must be accountable to the people that you are leading. And the fact that our president has gone missing for a week without us knowing about his whereabouts is very worrying. And for me, these are the telltale signs that show that President Tinubu is not prepared to take a departure from the antecedents of his predecessor. Because this was what his predecessor was known for, going at war. And President Tinubu has decided to go at war. If there are sources in the presidency that are saying the president is in France, we know his history with France. His history with France is that is where he goes for his medicals. Nigerian presidents in the past, we know where they go for medicals. President Yaradua was going for medicals in Saudi Arabia. President Buhari was going for medicals in the UK. And President Tinubu is going to medicals in France. So anytime President Tinubu finds himself in France, there is all the likelihood that he has gone there for medicals. And what is wrong if the presidential spokesman, who has decided to become mute now, comes over to Nigerians and says, on his way back from the UNGA, the president stops over in France to see his doctors? We will be okay with that, because we want the president to be in good health. He's leading us, 200 million people, and we have all sorts of problems. But to not keep quiet and treat us as if, but you see, this problem is to be solved by Nigerians. We accept all these type of issues without doing anything about it. We have a National Assembly that has not spoken, for a president who is 6 days away, 7 days away from where we don't know. We have opinion leaders. We have former presidents in this country. We have the unions. We have all sorts of interest groups. Nobody talks about this. Even the youth. The youth don't mobilize to come out against something like this. The other day, the youth were mobilizing for the death of Mob, which is very good. But we must also mobilize to ask questions like this. Because you see, at the end of the day, we're in this country, we're in the boat together. If this boat sinks or is rocking as it's rocking now, all of us are going to be part of it. So for me, the president's absence is the worrying matter.
All right.
All right, yeah. All right, great Imo. In your opinion, what do you think is the reason for his inability to communicate his whereabouts to Nigerians? How does the delay, in the return of Tinubu to the country affect the perception of his leadership and his commitment to Nigeria?
Well, they in media will say that perception is stronger than reality, and also considering that with the period we are in, there have been a lot of rumors, stories that his absence actually lays credence to. For example, He was supposed to be on CNN. That has been made public by certain elements. And then also there is this Chicago issue where even his lawyer was said to have told the court that unveiling his academic records, past academic records, will actually do damage, irreparable damage to his person, to his image. And then he was in the US. And such a statement for a sitting president who has said he had, a glowing reputation as a student of Chicago State University, with all of those, there was supposed to be a meet between him and Joe Biden. And we know that rumors have it that actually the FBI prevented that from happening, and Joe Biden actually lived hunger before anybody could say Jack. So many, and it was officially announced before they departed Nigeria that the president was going to have a meeting with the president of the United States, President Joe Biden. And we know the implication of such, that if anybody is having a reputational issue, the American president will be circumspect to actually have a seat close to that individual. And this is why I tell people that a character, integrity, especially of leaders, are intangible assets of nation. Very intangible, very powerful currency for a nation. And most times, because we have become accustomed to our ways of survival of the fittest, anyhow, and behavior, and justify the means thinking. We don't know how it affects us. So, considering all these things, I think it's enough even for a man to have high blood pressure, to require him to be of the airways for a while to at least to recuperate. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case right now, because and sometimes also when you see certain people who engage, who think governance is about propaganda, blackmails, arm twists, always these tools are usually the foremost tools you proceed with in governance. These things can make it difficult for you to really meander. Instead of coming out to say, oh, our president is here, this, and make it clear. And there should be nothing difficult about that. So, but for me, for whatever reason is not been seen, it's very unfortunate, because presidents returning from UN General Congress to their country usually make it a fanfare at that, and especially when they have something to show on their return, they will be announcing. Because like I was surprised when Nick was saying president can go there and be having meetings, Federal Executive Council meetings. My brother, if there will be anything like that, it should be something on, it is not for the news, because those are not the reasons you went there. People go to such events to, it firm and improve bilateral relationships, close deals, announce the new policy direction and international, maybe if you are modifying your international policies, if you are doing much of closing deals in concrete terms, and then on return, these are the things that were buzzing in the news. This investor, that country, that UN body, we have this agreement, we have this partnership, we have this funding arrangement, we have these grants coming, we'll be doing so. We went there, we asked for this, we made this. Actually, I've been sitting around with Joy Festus Kiamo, who was posing with his jeans and t-shirt with his hand in his pocket and telling us he's rounding off at hunger. when Nigeria is in serious need of leadership. Well, that is not news. Nobody should tell us that.
All right.
So maybe for not coming back with anything tangible, so they decide to keep Mr. President away. But I'm not going to blame him as a person because he also has managers who should be managing his brand image and the perception, the way the world should see him. And I don't think is what propaganda, blackmails, and antics can do. Need to lead as people who are serious about changing their nation, people who are going somewhere. You know, I mean, as I said earlier, he is the first number one marketer of Nigeria. And whatever happens with president, around president, the character of president, the valuable image of president, they are intangible asset of the nation beyond all his gold and all the rest, because integrity is a currency. It pays everywhere in the world. People can invest, billions, trillions, because they can trust. When the presidency is bogged down by reputational issues of certificate, please keep my, just give them my certificate, don't give them my transcript and all those. It's just not, it's not just the kind of news you should be coming back
Of
with
course,
from the
of
US,
course, not
and
the
it's
kind of
embarrassing.
news, not the kind of news Nigerians want to hear. Let me quickly come to you, Nick. Now, Nick. Now here we are. We are faced with insinuations. Nigerians are having to pound out the thoughts of, could it be this? Could it be that? Where is the president? Is he attending to his health? Which of course is a normal thing. I mean, everyone deserves to attend to their health at one time or the other. No one is a super being, so that is a given. Now, but the thought is out there. Could he be attending to his health, or could he be attending to the 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 drama going on with the Chicago State University certificate? Could it be this or that? A lot of things are now at play here. And some Nigerians are also concerned that the delay with labor as it concerns negotiating, the delay with the Minister of Labor as it concerns negotiating with labor now could be because they have not had a proper communication between, I mean, there's not been proper communication between the minister and the president. Now we hear that the president, on October 1 or before October 1, well, on October 1 he will address the nation and of course address the issue of minimum wage, which is what the labor union is clamoring for. One of the things they are clamoring for. But this delay now, how is his absence impacting on the governance, of the nation? Remember, he did say that he's ready to hit the ground running. But here we are. Are we running in the right direction? Nick?
Since President Tinubu took office, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Yes. Okay, so I've picked two questions from what you have asked. The first is that how is the absence of the president from the public scene impacting on governance? And secondly, whether the president is in the right direction, heading in the right direction. Now, the first one is that the president's absence from the public scene would definitely be affecting governance, because as we speak today, there will be a lot of issues that will be pending on Mr. President's table to deal with. And if the president was disposed to dealing with those things, then he should be in the public picture. Our president went to New York to represent us, and the reports are that he left New York on the 21st of September, which is Thursday last week. Today is another Thursday, so today is day 8. that our president departed, and we don't know where the president's plane has landed. Nobody has told us. The president has a spokesman, he has a media team, there's a minister for information. Nobody has told us where the president's plane has landed. So it is concerning for us, and definitely is going to impact on governance, because even if, let's say, members of his cabinet are aware of where the president is and are taking files to the president and he's dealing with it, we should also have that in the news that, okay, the president is in France, he's meeting with an electricity giant, he's leading meeting with a refinery business giant, he's meeting with this. Those are the kind of news that should come out. And if he's taking decisions that he has approved this, he has approved that, it should also come out in the public glare. So for us, watching from the outside, it has been 7 days going to 8 of no action from the presidency. And that is really very worrying. The second question is that, is President Tinubu heading in the right direction? Immediately President Tinubu started, on the 29th of May, when he made that speech and says fuel subsidy is gone, I was firmly behind him, clapping for him, jumping up in the air and hailing him. By the time he now said the forest market is now unified, there is no more two markets, only one market, I was in euphoria, because I know that those are one of the two cancerous elements that have pinned Nigeria down and are ready to kill us, and the president was dealing with it. But as I speak to you today, me and President Tinubu are no longer in the same boat, because after President Tinubu took those initial decisions, he has shown emptiness of thought process. He's been bereft of ideas. He seems to be overwhelmed with the job and the problems of Nigeria. He lacks direction. We don't even know what this government is all about now. As I speak to you now, I have to be very frank, and my views are never hidden. Anybody should take them to the president to say that this president needs to probably sit back at home and be sending his vice president on this global junketing so that he can take care of the home. You see, if my house is filthy, totally filthy, stench, oozing with all sorts of stench, and I go about inviting visitors to my house, they are not going to come. I must first clean my house, cleanse it, make it inviting. In that case, visitors will even come unannounced. President Tinubu is totally directionless. Totally directionless. He is not showing any departure from his predecessor, President Buhari. The big ticket items that are worrying Nigeria today, number one, refining, petrol, all that. There's nothing on the table that President Tinubu has put forward for us. And that refining is the one that will solve foreign exchange problem. Because we're using all the naira we buy petrol to chase dollars to go and import petrol.
Okay.
Security, Mr. President has not addressed it. Look, yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Terrorists went to Zango Kataf, the hometown of the Chief of Defense Staff, and killed 6 people. And as today, we have not heard that that place has been locked down by security agencies. And they are going door to door, tree to tree, bush to bush, looking for the people to grab them, which is what will happen in New York, where the president just departed from. If in New York, anybody goes to any community and shoots 6 people, that entire place will be locked down by the American security architecture. And until those people are arrested and brought to justice, there will be no rest. In President Buhari's time, they will kill and go. That is, first and foremost, we don't prevent them coming to kill, which is what the intelligence community with so many agencies should do. They not kill, then we allow them to go. Nobody goes after them. It's the same thing happening under President Tinubu. So for me, President Tinubu lacks direction. He should, he's traveling too much. I travel a lot. So I know that when you travel, your schedule is disrupted, you suffer jet lag, it takes time for you to even coordinate. Let this president sit back at home and be sending foreign minister, sending vice president, so that he can think through the problems of Nigeria
All
and
right.
begin to bring different solutions from his predecessor.
All right, then. So quickly to Great now. Now, Great. Do you think that the problems that are bedeviling the country at the time, for subsidy removal, insecurity, and and everything else, floating of the naira and how the naira is faring against the dollar. Do you think these things are a little bit too much for the president to deal with at the time? That's why he just says, "Okay, let me go rest my head, think, before I come back to do things."
The challenges are very enormous, but they are not insurmountable, actually. That is why we actually, whoever that is in power needs a clear head and less of sacrifice, because sometimes you see that the motivation for seeking power is to satisfy self ego. That is why you think people who seek to be president, governors, senators, sometimes they just want it so that they can satisfy their ego and make money. They don't think seriously about what is involved. They don't see and they don't understand that it is a serious, time consuming, energy sapping, mentally engaging venture to be a leader anywhere in the world. I mean, in any serious country. When you read, excuse me, Lee Kuan Yew's From Third World to First World, you read this book, Why Nations Fail. You read Israeli model, the startup nation, and many other books talking about nations, their systems, leadership, and developmental strides. You will know that a lot of serious-minded people sat on the table to solve it. So Nigeria's problems, yes, they are enormous, but I don't think they're insurmountable. For example, you can't do a thing over and over and again and expect different results. President Tinubu came in saying that he will continue where Buhari stopped. Buhari's 8 years was a disaster. And then he actually continued almost with the same model, system of nepotism, of grandstanding, propaganda, and non-critical thinking engagement. You just announcing that subsidy is over. Yeah, many people who contested the election said they were going to remove subsidy, but what systems were they putting in place? You do know it's not just announcing subsidy is over. It's an intricate issue that can destabilize the construct a nation, because a whole lot of things have been built around both corruption and survival of the nation. There were people downtrodden who did it, but there were also rich people who are milking it. Then you can't come to a nation that is suffering reputational issue, corruption issue, budget, the bulk of budget is wasted, amongst less than 0.5% of the population. A country of 220 million people. Federal government civil service is less than 1 million people. Every year you budget 70 to 75% of your annual budget on recurrent expenditure. That's to service just 1 million people, to buy vehicles, buy computers, buy chairs, travel around, and you have a country that is not built. Your infrastructural deficit is almost 100 trillion in naira value. 20 million children out of school. The per capita income is nonsense. No industry. And part of the challenge Nigeria is facing right now, we are not even thinking, is that the country lack what they call indigenous production capacity. where they were busy governing Nigeria as the Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Christian and Muslim, doing nepotism, doing it, chauvinism, and all those clannish behavior. You undermine those who could have brought up the economy, those who could invest in industrial development, gave waivers to mediocre to answer billionaires, then shut down productive capacity of ordinary Nigerians to create indigenous capacity for production. Now we are import dependent. We need dollar to import. We cannot even meet our OPEC quota in terms of oil sales. We cannot import any other thing. Ships come to Nigeria and leave there. And it means a lot of this. The kind of things you hear people praising and talking about, it's not even about the major crisis Nigeria faces. Yes, Nigeria is in such a way, it's in a problem that demands pressure on the president, but let them start by number one, solving the cause of governance, bringing down corruption, and availing themselves in a transparent and orderly manner before Nigerians to say this is where we're going. Because nations, leaders don't do everything. You have to have a vision that you sell to your populace and they buy into it and run with it. That is why countries like Rwanda, that is run on aid for over 20 years, no oil, nothing. The thing that their vision, their president have done, Paul Kagame has simply done, is to sell a vision of where their nation is going.
All right,
All
then.
right,
Everybody
great.
understands it. No sentiment, no hatred.
All
All
right,
right,
then.
great, Imo. Thank you for your submission. Now I'm coming to you, Nick. Of course, the media team should be responsible for passing across the information about the whereabouts of the presidency, to the Nigerian populace. Now, since that was not done, that is probably because they deliberately did not want to disclose that to Nigerians. Now, is there any law that, that states that the whereabouts of the presidency must be known to Nigerians at every point in time? Or is this just some moral, aspects to it, in that, we are looking at how Nigerians perceive the presidency, but is there really any law that states that he has to disclose his whereabouts to Nigerians at every given time?
To my knowledge, I'm not a lawyer, so let me put that forward very quickly. My knowledge of the law is very limited, probably to business law, because I read accounting. So I'm not a lawyer. I cannot categorically say there is a law or there is no law. But to my knowledge, I don't think there is any law that compels the president to disclose his whereabouts to us. So from a legal perspective, to my knowledge, I don't think there's any law like that. However, a president who swore on oath to defend the Constitution of Nigeria, and his primary job is the welfare and security of Nigerians, cannot be missing from the scene for 6 days, 7 days, getting to the 8th, without us knowing where he is. The president is our employee. As Nigerians, we are his employer. And we recruited him at the last elections, for which he put his CV before us and canvassed for our votes. There is no way an employee can be absent from duty for a week without the employer being aware of his whereabouts. And it is not everything that has to be reduced to legal speak. I can assure you that if it is in the UK, where I also live, or in the US, where the president recently departed from, if President Biden disappears from the public scene for 1 week, or let's say President Biden attended the UN General Assembly, or attended the G7 summit in London, and then he departed London since a week ago, and Americans don't know where his plane has landed, there will be nothing else that will be said in America as we speak today. It will only be about the whereabouts of the president. Whether it is the media, whether it is the politicians, whether it is opinion leaders, whether it is communities, if individuals, nobody is going to speak about anything again. Once you tune to CNN, once you tune to news, once you tune to anything, the headline news there will be the absence of Biden, President Biden. This is the pressure that the citizenry puts on leaders that is making them get good democracy. In Nigeria, we sit docile, give these people humongous powers without checkmating them and expect them to deliver. They are not going to deliver. So if Nigerians want to make it happen, just as we rally around and protest Mohbad's death and other matters that are of concern to us, we must also be mobilizing and taking interest in the political space. Because at the end of it all, whatever we are doing, whether you are running a business, you are working, you are farming, you are going to school, anything, the politicians are the ones that will decide your fate. You are not going to do well in what you are doing if the politicians are not managing the country well. So that reality must dawn on us Nigerians, that the places where jackpine to, our young people are jackpine to, those places are functioning because the citizenry are close marking, checkmating, up in arms, putting their leaders feet to the fire always, and that is what they are getting. For us, look at what we are talking about here. This is not even headline news that the president has been missing for about a week. It's not going to happen for us.
All right, thank you so very much, Nick, and great emo. Many thanks for staying with us. Please stay right there so we can, talk on the second topic as well. Up next on VOP this morning, how strange these times are. Abducted Zamfara student sighted at Madada Forest receiving treatment, except that Madada Forest is an area controlled by terrorists. Now let's get right into that when we return.